Bhagavad Gita Overview, 23rd October, Chapter 7.
Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. We'll start with our prayers. Bhagavad Gita Introduction, page number 1. ज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपां साग्रजातां सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. So we are at chapter 6. The name of chapter 6 is Dhyan Yoga. The acronym for chapter 6 is EASY. E stands for enemy or friend, which are the first 9 verses of the chapter. A is Ashtanga Yoga, which is verses 10 to 36. Am I right? 38? 36. S stands for success and failure is what we discussed last Tuesday. That's 39 to 45. 37 to 45. And the last is Yogi. 46th verse and the 47th verse of chapter 6. So last class we discussed Arjun's dilemma. Where he is wondering, he asked a question in verse number 37. That's a question by Arjun. What about a yogi? You've given such a tough process. Dhyan Yoga is a tough process. We discussed how Ashtanga Yoga is impractical for Kali Yuga and the various points on why that is so. A shorter duration of life, and plus it's so difficult. The seriousness in Kali Yuga towards spirituality is so low, and all these things, because of which even Arjuna understands that this process is unendurable and it's impractical for me as a grihastha. So then he asks a question as to what about a yogi who's been unsuccessful. So then Krishna discusses two types of yogi, one who's practiced this dhyan yoga for a shorter time and one who's practiced for a considerable time. So Krishna says the one who was unsuccessful after a very little bit of practicing this yoga, he says that person takes birth in the Shuchi and Srimad family. That means in a pious or a rich family, so that his basic necessities are taken care of, and then immediately he can take off from the next birth. If he's finished 30%, he starts with 31 in the next lifetime. And those who have failed after a long time process, long time of practicing this dhyan yoga, he is born in a dhimatam, yogi dhimatam family. That means, it's a very rare birth, and he takes birth in a family of transcendentalists who are already practicing Krishna consciousness. So that's a very rare birth, also Krishna says. So then this last verses is 46 and 47, where Krishna is just giving us...
What was the point for 45?
For 45, yes. And when a yogi, can I read only the translation?
No, I just wanted that.
Yeah, I'm just reading the translation, then I'll give you the point. Verse number 45, and when the yogi engages himself with sincere endeavor, now this is after taking birth in that families. So he says that a person who engages himself with sincere endeavor in making further progress, what happens? He is washed of all contaminations, and then ultimately achieving perfection after many births of practice, he attains the supreme goal. So spirituality is not, a program of one day, of 1 year. It's a lifetime and more. So the positive thing here, we might think, my God, now, this birth is still so many years, and then we're talking about lifetimes here. The thing is, the Krishna, what the positive way we can see that it's not lost. Material endeavors are lost. Spiritual endeavor simply, it's the only package, it's the only luggage that we can carry to the next lifetime, and everything else is lost. So if we see it by Krishna's view that he doesn't see us as failures, what does he say? He gives us a second chance. Everyone gets a second chance. Like Ajamil, he got a second chance in this very lifetime. He was practicing Krishna consciousness. He was a Brahman, born in a very Shuchi Srimad family. And then what happened? He married a prostitute. And what happened? He got attracted to a prostitute. He got married to a prostitute. Had 10 children with her. Even at the age of 80, he had his youngest child. And apparently, some saint he met, and he was trying to steal from that saint. But the saint said, I have nothing to give you, and I can give you something. So he understands that this, the Brahmins, the saints, that they're paupers. They just move with nothing at all. What can you expect to steal from a sannyasi? At the most you'll get is a danda. There's nothing else to steal. So then he says, but I can give you something. So Jamil thought, wow, what can this person give me? He says, I can give you a name for your youngest child. So he says, free mein milta hai to why not? So what? He said, you name your child Narayan. So at the end of his life, when the Yamdutas came to capture Ajamil, what happens? He calls for Krishna. No, he calls out his youngest child. Your most affectionate thing is what you don't want to leave at the time of death. Like that day he was describing that lady. The chabi is something that she wanted to hand over. That was the most dearmost thing. God knows what all is there in that cupboard. Jama Punji. That is something that we don't want to live. Something which is most, generally the one who is most youngest in the family is the most loved, most pampered, and most spoiled also. I don't know if you all are the youngest in the family, you all will know. Right? And if you're the eldest, you'll know how deprived you've been.
That's more like it.
Yes, so the youngest person is the most spoiled. So then he saw that this baby, what will happen to my small child, and I have to leave 80 years of age. And still, then he started screaming, Narayan, Narayan, and that is like the perfection of life, if you can take the name of Lord. And then what happened? The Yamdutas, immediately the Vishnu Dutas also arrived, rightfully claiming what is theirs, saying that he has to take birth again now, in a good family. And the Yamdutas are confused. He's a sinful person. How can we have a whole list of the amount of thefts and robbery, and he's lived absolute adharmic life that he's had. How can he go with you all? So then for them, Yamraj was like the superintendent of, he's the highest. Everyone has to bow down to him. How can someone else, at least in this jurisdiction, Yamraj is the one who decides everything for sinful people. How can someone else just take away what belongs to us? They were really passionate about punishing. It's like bakra, you get, how a person, the seniors in the college, when they see someone that we found someone to rag, so they can't leave that person. So how can we leave a Jamil? He's such a potential person. So now Jamil is watching all this, and what is happening? He got a second chance. The Yamdutas and the Vishnu Dutas, they kind of had what do you call it?
A pact.
A pact, yeah, okay, fine.
His intention was not Narayan.
His intention was not Narayan.
They go by the intention, they don't just go by the word that you say.
Well, you can see this in Srimad Bhagavatam. Apparently, it just didn't matter. Somehow you take, and that's why in older times people had these names.
Yeah.
Now it's, all Rinky or whatever. It doesn't mean anything. But in those times, at least by mistake, at least your name you will take so many times. And so that is a purifying thing. So Narayan, Jamal must have taken this small child's name for so long. So that was apparently purifying him. Anything connected to Krishna, any object, you connect it with iron, it will catch. You connect it with fire, it takes that quality. So anything, apparently this name, which is just it sounds like material, it's a material name, it's the name of his boy. It belongs to Krishna. His name Narayan belongs to Lord Narayan. So it's purifying, it's automatic. It's like an automatic thing. If you want or don't want, you like it or you don't like it. Now Jamal is watching this, that he's got 10 more years. It's a second chance. And how these yogis are getting a second chance? That they take birth in a devotee family or a favorable family or a family where things are already done and you don't have to really work hard for the daily basic necessities of life. You automatically have it. It's easier to go ahead for a spiritual endeavor. Now in the 46th and 47th verse, Krishna is starting a new topic. He realizes that now I have discussed all possible yogas. The karma yoga is done. Yeah, we'll do quickly I'll draw this in the corner, the yoga ladder that we have. Karma yoga is there. There's karma kanda. The person elevates to karma yoga. For karma yoga, when we come to chapter 7, we'll be revising all these things, how one leads to the other. I'm just drawing it for recap. Karma yoga. When someone elevates, they come to Gyan Yoga. Elevation from there is Ashtanga Yoga.
Dhyan.
Yeah, Ashtanga or Dhyan. Now Krishna gives this hierarchy in this particular verse. So we'll do 46, 47 together and then we come back since it's one section. Verse number 46. तपस्विभ्योऽधिको योगी ज्ञानिभ्योऽपि मतोऽधिकः कर्मिभ्यश्चाधिको योगी तस्माद् योगी भवार्जुन. Translation, start. Yogi is greater than the ascetic, greater than the empirist, and greater than the fruitive worker. Therefore, O Arjuna, in all circumstances, be a yogi. 47th verse. Yoginam api sarvesham madgatena antaratmana Shraddhavan bhajate yo mam Same yukta tamo mataha. Translation, start. And of all yogis, the one who great faith who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me. He is the most intimately united with me in yoga, and he is the highest of all. That is my opinion. Right, so now we're coming to verse 7. Chapter 7, we're coming very close. So if you see in every end of every chapter, what Krishna does, he gives a gist of the next chapter. Like the end of 6th chapter is the gist of the what he's going to talk in the 7th chapter. The end of 5th chapter was the gist of the 6th chapter. Just like a glimpse he'll give, and then the whole narration starts in the next chapter. So here also Krishna is giving a very clear hierarchy. He says ascetic. Ascetic is a dhyan yogi. Right? He is greater than an empirist. Empirist is a philosopher, one who goes through a lot of jnana yoga, lot of jnana, lot of knowledge. All the shastras, all the scriptures, all the Upanishads he has studied, very in depth. Practical has not yet begun. So that's why an ascetic or a dhyan yogi is better than a jnana yogi. What about a fruitive worker? The ascetic, the karma yogi or the dhyan yogi is even better. The dhyan yogi is better than even a karma yogi. So here Krishna is very clear that karma yoga is out, jnana yoga is out. What is in right now is dhyan yoga. So therefore Arjun, in all circumstances, this is at least what you have to reach. Is that okay? So this hierarchy is for verse number 6.46. This is what Krishna mentions here.
What comes after Astanga Yoga?
Chapter 7, Bhakti Yoga.
So, point is that it's necessary to reach Bhakti Yoga going like this, or you can go directly.
You can take a staircase or you can take an elevator. Choice is yours. This will take you lifetimes. Bhakti Yoga is so practical, and in fact, we are grihasthas, so apparently we are not even here. Yeah, so the point Krishna is trying to make is that either you eat like this or you eat like this.
For Bhakti, a certain amount of dhyan is necessary.
Yes, it's one of the byproducts of Bhakti Yoga. What Krishna is going to mention in the next verse, verse number 47, is that and mostly also in chapter 7, is that what you receive in this is automatically received in Bhakti Yoga. Control of mind, knowledge, especially in 10th chapter we'll be doing that how Krishna, up to a Bhakti Yoga, up to a Bhakti Yogi, how does he give them knowledge? We'll be seeing it in 10.11, I think. Tesham evanukam partham aham ajnanajam tamah nashami atma bhavasto jnana deepena bhasvata. He says that for a Bhakti Yogi, what happens is that he is so engaged in loving devotional service to the Lord. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam. That's just the previous verse. He says with love, he's worshipping and he's engaging in my service. So in the next verse, what is the ultimate mercy that Krishna gives to a Bhakti Yogi? He says that ajnana jamtama nashami. He says that I, sitting personally in that heart of that devotee, I clear all his ignorance. And what is the best mercy that I give him? Jnana deepena bhasvata. He says that deep of jnana is what enlightens in his heart. Here in Jnana Yoga, it's an outside-in process. Is that I study everything and I try to come to a conclusion. Bhakti Yoga is inside out. What happens is whatever we want to know about Krishna is nothing new. It's already dormant. The very nature of every spirit soul is Sat Chit Ananda. Sat is eternity, full of knowledge and bliss. So knowledge is very inherent. What the jiva needs to know for connection for Krishna is very inherent. He already knows it. Right now it's covered because of ignorance. And Krishna says in 10 chapters that ignorance is something that I have to destroy. This doesn't destroy it. This is an outside in. I'm trying to read everything, but still practical application is still pending. In Bhakti Yoga, I'm going parallel. I'm getting theory from Krishna personally within my heart. That's what Krishna promises in 10.11. And at the same time, I'm getting purified. So it's a dual process. Theory as well as practical. As soon as I do practical, I get more realization of my acquired knowledge. This is only acquired knowledge. Realized knowledge is complete when we practice Bhakti Yoga. that okay? We'll see it more in chapter 7, 8 and more in 10. 9 and 10 it becomes even more clear that how everything of this is what, even in 9.27 Krishna says, I give whatever they lack. What is that? 9.22? Do you remember? Ananyas chintayanto ma. A karma yogi, when they need something, they, the injunction is that you worship a particular demigod and then you get that object.
My impression is that Gyan is what sparkles bhakti.
Gyan is what sparkles? Can you elaborate that a little more? Not very clear.
If you know about Krishna, that's how there's the inspiration of bhakti.
Gyan is inspiration of bhakti?
No. Gyan is what sparkles, is the inspiration that gives bhakti. You need Gyan
Knowledge
to be able
leads to bhakti.
You need Gyan to be able to understand. Exactly. You need Gyan to be able to.
Until unless you don't have a knowledge of Krishna, how
What
do
is
you?
that only, na? What is Karma Yoga? We do Havans, we are doing all this. What is that? It is invoking the love of God.
I'll just come back to that point. You're saying knowledge becomes an impetus to practice Bhakti Yoga, and if you practice Bhakti Yoga even without
I'm not
knowledge,
sure about impetus. I think it's a prerequisite.
it's a prerequisite.
I think so. You need to have little
What
bit of
knowledge? How much
Not
knowledge
very-
did
not how much
actually-
of knowledge, but a little bit of knowledge to be able to
To do bhakti also,
accept
you would
it
no
or-
need little knowledge, no? That he is the supreme, he is this. I mean,
Also, and even if you don't have knowledge, that's what happened to Ajamin. He did not know that Narayan is the name of.
so you can be
The
bad
Lord.
and just say Narayan, and that's going to take you. And you can be bad and you can be sinful, and I'll just at the end of this day say Narayan.
If you're
Narayan.
sinful, then you won't be able to take the name of. Because Ajamil did have some quota, he could come back to it. He did have something. But Bhakti Yoga, the thing is, it's so powerful that even an uneducated person, in fact, there's a shloka which is spoken by Devahuti in Srimad Bhagavatam. He says people who are born, in a Chandal family, that's a dog-eating family. There are some meat eaters, but even there are gradations even that, dog eaters are meant to be very lowest of kinds. Even if that person practices Bhakti Yoga, he can better off than every one of these categories. It's one who practices Bhakti Yoga, it's understood that he's already performed all these activities. So rather than being a prerequisite, I would say that, it's a byproduct. A person who's practicing Bhakti Yoga, one who's practicing Gyan Yoga may not necessarily come to Bhakti Yoga. It's not necessary. He may be going on for years and years like that, maybe for lifetimes.
Except
Yeah.
what
And
I'm
who
saying
knows?
that it's necessary to know something about what you're worshiping.
Acceptance and this thing becomes little easy.
I accept your
In
fact,
today's time.
and I'm saying that even if it is not, even if you don't know who's Krishna, if you still serve him, you still get the same result. He will give you the knowledge. Like when Dhruv Maharaj, he did not know who the Supreme Personality of Godhead is. He didn't know anything. He just wanted his kingdom. That's it. Rather, Narad Muni tricked him into performing Bhakti Yoga. It was actually a trick. It was pure trick. That's what devotees do. They trick people into form. Because if you know, you'll take a long time. It just might take a long time to come to Krishna. Even that acceptance has to come. And acquired knowledge is something and realized knowledge is something else. What Bhakti Yogis get is realized knowledge. It's not only acquired knowledge. What Gyan Yogis are doing, they're still searching the root. In Bhakti Yoga, you know where the root is and you're already watering it. It's understood that you already have it. I cannot water the root unless I know where it is. Bhakti Yoga surpasses Gyan Yoga. Long back. Verse number 47. Yoginam api sarvesham. Again. Yoginam api sarvesham. Madgatena antaratmana. Shraddhavan bhajate yo mam. Same yuktatamo mataha. Translation, start. and of all yogis,
the one with great faith, who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me. He is the most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all.
that is my opinion. So Krishna says, now there are three categories. In the previous verse we had 2 against 1. That is Jnana Yogi, Karma Yoga. And Krishna says that a Dhyani is definitely better than these 2. Right? Now Krishna says out of all yogis, not all type of yogas, the one with great faith who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, renders transcendental loving service into me. That is a bhakti yogi. He is most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all these. That is my opinion. So Krishna is giving his opinion, saying that now I have presented to you all these 3 yogas that are there. Now what I am going to present to you is the highest of all. In 9th chapter, Krishna describes Rajavidya, Rajaguyam. He describes Bhakti Yoga. He says that this is Rajavidya. This is the king of all knowledge, king of all erudition. Rajaguyam. This is the secret of all, the king of all secrets also. And also here, I just like to read the purport that Prabhupada mentions here. What Prabhupada has written, he's described a particular word in more detail. Shraddhavan bhajate yomam. With faith, one who serves me. I'm reading the purport, the first line. The word bhajate is significant here. Bhajate has its root in the verb bhaj, which is used where there is need of service. The English word worship, which is a literal translation of the word bhaj, cannot be used in the same sense as bhaj. Prabhupada is saying it's not complete. Just worship, this word is not complete. Worship means to adore or to show respect and honor to the worthy one. Someone superior, then I worship. Means I honor, I just adore, I just love this person. But service with love and faith is especially meant for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We're not supposed to only adore. When you have a spouse at home, and you just say that, oh, I love you, don't do anything for her or for him. Does it really complete the loving process? There is some service involved, which includes adjustment, which includes, everything. So that is complete service with love and faith. One can avoid worshipping a respectable man or a demigod and may be called discourteous, but one cannot avoid serving the Supreme Lord without being thoroughly condemned. Every living entity is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus every living entity is indebted to serve the Supreme Lord by his own constitution. Failing to do this, he falls down. Why these apparent people are falling down? In Jnana Yoga also there is a fall down. Krishna reveals. Karma Yoga also it's possible. Dhyana Yoga also it's possible. Because the service, the relationship has not yet been established. When there's an engagement, the parents always say, "Jaldi se shadi kara do." Zyada time courtship is not very good. Why? The bond, the relationship is still little kacha. I use the same word. It's still kacha. It's not yet established. The emotional and the social, the physical, that whole bond is not yet done. So then it's sometimes when people go on very long, the 8 months or 10 months or sometimes a year, then it's very dangerous to keep a couple like that without marriage, because marriage sets the bond. So Bhakti Yoga is like marriage between us and Krishna. We are serving him with faith, with love, with devotion. Now Bhagavatam describes here, Esham Purusham Sakshat Atma Prabhavan Mishwaram Na Bhajantya Vajananti Sthanat Bhrashta Patantyadaha. Anyone who does not render service and neglects his duty unto the primeval Lord, who is the source of all living entities, will certainly fall down from his constitutional position. And again, this word bhaja is used twice. One is Shraddhavan Bhajate Yo Mam. And then Krishna says this word, Same Yuktatamo, Yuktatamo, Yuktatama. There is a word in Sanskrit. I tell you, search my notes. There is the good, there is the better, and then the superlative is best. This word Yuktatama. The last line, Same Yuktatamo Mataha. Mataha is my opinion. In my opinion, who is the best? There is someone good and better also. There has to be gradations. So now, in the previous verse, Krishna gives woes. There is someone called Yukta. There is someone called Yukta Tara, which means better, and then there is Yukta Tama. The best, the real meaning of yogi, one who connects to Krishna the best, that's the actual yogi. So he starts with this word, Yogi Nam Api Sarvesham. Who's the best yogi? Who's the actual yogi? One who practices this Bhakti Yoga. Good is one who has graduated. This person is not even in the list. Not even in the list. Practicing Dhyan Yogi or one who has graduated from Dhyan Yogi, obviously he'll enter Dhyan Yoga. And then Yukta Tara. Oh, sorry, this is A. Yukta Tara is one who has attained Samadhi. The 8th limb of Ashtanga Yoga is Samadhi, one who is perfected. And Yukta Tama is the better or the best from the better is Bhakti Yogi. So this is what Krishna is saying. The Yukta Tama, the best yogi, is one who is practicing Bhakti Yoga. So the culmination of all kinds of yoga practically lies in Bhakti Yoga. After you found the root, you have to water it. After you found the Supreme Personality of Godhead in your Samadhi, in your knowledge, then what do? You serve Him with love, with devotion and with faith. So how to practice this Bhakti Yoga? It starts with 7th chapter, 7th to the 12th. This entire chunk is the filling of the sandwich. Do you remember?
Yeah.
The main part. The main part of the sandwich is the filling, the vegetable, the cheese. These eaten stuffed pizzas, how it tastes even more delicious. It's the stuffing in the sandwich. So we enter the stuffing of the sandwich of Bhagavad Gita. That's chapter 7. So I'll quickly write down the acronyms and everything, and then we'll go through chapter 7. The name of chapter 7 is Knowledge of the Absolute. So Bhakti begins with Gyan. Yes, it's a knowledge. Way to acquire knowledge in Bhakti Yoga is slightly different. In Gyan Yoga, it's your own endeavor. Here you have to hear from that's what the first verse says, that you hear from authority, either Krishna or his devotee. The acronym for chapter 7 is HEAD. If Bhakti Yoga is compared to a body, chapter 7 starts first, that's the head. H stands for hearing. E stands for everywhere. So there are 30 verses in chapter 7, small chapter compared to the others. Very important concepts in chapter 7. First 3 verses is how to begin the process of Bhakti Yoga. That's by hearing. That's just the first 3 verses. And then Krishna says that how can you see the Lord everywhere? That's verses 4 to 12. And then accept or reject verses 13 to 19. There are 4 kinds of people who accept Krishna consciousness, who take Krishna to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they are able to serve Him, able to do Bhakti Yoga. And there are 4 types of people who cannot surrender. They reject Krishna consciousness. Who are those? Where do we fall? First 4, second 4. It's only 4 verses in that, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 6 verses in that. And then demigods. The last part, where Arjun asks questions about the demigods. This is 10 verses, verses 20 to 30. Krishna ends the chapter there. So we start with hearing. So most things in our life need some research. No? Yes? No? Imagine if it's just a holiday destination. You have to organize a party. You need to know things, which is the best. What are the modes of transport, how to get there, how many days, how many people are coming, accommodations and finance, everything. So many things need to be researched. If you're having something at your home, again, the cooks, how many people are coming, the catering, the this, the serving, the space. So many things need to be organized, right? So, imagine that for simple things like this, so much exercise is required. What to speak about, is gut feeling enough? I think so many people will come. I think this much food is enough. Do you all really prepare things like that? Accommodation mil jayega. Imagine you go there and you're stranded. Gut feeling in these things is not enough. Even for Bhakti Yoga, people say that no, Bhakti is coming from within, so is it only sentiment? There is some philosophy. We need to know certain things. We need to know, as Sir pointed out, is it a prerequisite, is it a byproduct? That we'll find out. Right? So Einstein himself stated that religion without philosophy is simply a sentiment, or sometimes in acute situations also becomes fanaticism. Religion sometimes becomes fanaticism. So in chapter 7, entitled Knowledge of the Absolute, Krishna delineates certain philosophical truths to instill confidence and conviction in the head of the reader, one who's studying Bhagavad Gita. So in earlier chapters, Arjuna often encouraged Krishna to speak by asking some questions. But rather in chapter 7, Krishna automatically starts speaking without any question from Arjuna. Because he's already given us a gist of Bhakti Yoga, and Krishna is more, he's already encouraged, he's already eager to speak about this topmost yoga systems. He automatically starts speaking in chapter 7 how to begin this Bhakti Yoga. Who is the topmost yogi? What are the characteristics of such people? And then we'll start this part. 1 to 3, verses 1 to verse number 3. Now here, modern scientists often posit a notion of proving everything empirically. If you need some proof, you need to know. Before practicing this Bhakti Yoga, I need to know. And I need to know from these senses, some experience. Then I'll be able to practice, be convinced. Well, it seems very logical, very objective, and this is apparently a rational approach which we've been trained. Our academics kind of train us in this way, that we have to approach things very rationally and everything. So imagine if you want to know who our father is, rather go for a DNA testing or ask our mother? Ask our mother. Is that a logical, rational approach? No. Why would we ask our mother? We go for DNA testing. We need to know something which is going on TV, say on a BBC channel. What would you do? How do you know? Just by rationalizing, just by logic. Oh, this is the time that possibly this thing could be going on. Just switch it on and see it, or just go through a TV guide at the most. Then you get to know. So accepting a higher authority is actually a very natural process for learning about something. Do you accept that? Actually, that's how we get our academics also. We go to a college, we acquire knowledge about someone who's already an expert on that subject. And how do I know he's an expert? Because when I apply his knowledge, it works. So that's how I know he's an expert. How do they catch quacks? When they realized that his treatment doesn't work, it does exactly the opposite. You know, a quack was caught in Saifi. Apparently, his wife caught him. It was quite some time back. There was a report. His wife caught him. His wife was a doctor from Saifi. And go to Saifi, yeah, please, otherwise they'll kill me. This person was actually, he had some fake certificates, degrees, and he also got married to a girl from that same hospital. Then she realized that this guy just doesn't know anything. You know, even in going in operation theatres, he would just get things done from his. So slowly, staying with him, she realized that there are so many important concepts in, you know, doctorate, and this guy doesn't know. And then dhire she started finding out. I'm sure she had the greatest heartbreak.
He was a fool to marry a doctor.
Yeah, exactly. She just married a lawyer or something. Wouldn't know anything. But somehow his methodology was not working, so she knew that this person is not a proper authority. So we get to know from authority. Here, Arjun is extremely fortunate. Rather, we sitting here today are extremely fortunate because now we have to plan our life now. You know, for small things, small events which are like 3 days, 6 months, we actually plan with so much intricacy and detailing. What about our life? So Krishna is trying to tell us that a yoga is something that we have to practice, make it our lifestyle. And the plan starts from chapter 7. We have an opportunity to hear from Krishna, the most authoritative source. So this is a descending path, from up to down. From the authority, it's coming down. So 7.1, 7.2, 7.3 we read together, and then we come back. Text number 1. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Maya Saktamanaha Partha Yogam Yunjan Madashrayah Asamshayam Samagram Mam Yatha Jnasasi Tattrinu. Translation. So here this chapter doesn't begin with Arjuna Vacha. It begins with Shri Bhagavan Vacha. Translation. Start. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Now hear, O son of Pritha,
How by practicing yoga in full consciousness
of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt." Verse number 2. Jnanam teham savijnanam idam vakshāmya sheshatah yajñātvā neha bhuyo nyaj ज्ञातव्यम avashishyate. Translation. Start. I shall now declare unto you in full this knowledge, both phenomenal and numinous. This being known, nothing further shall remain for you to know. Verse 3. Manushyanam sahasreshu Kaschid yatati siddhaye Yatatam siddhanam Kaschin mam veti tatvatah. Translations. Out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection, and those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. Dhyan yogi was supposed to be perfect. Krishna is saying hardly one knows me in truth. So if there are 1,000 dhyan yogis, there's hardly one who knows me in truth. What to speak about a dhyan yogi? Quite far. Again, verse number 1. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Maya Saktamanaha Partha
मय्यासक्तमना पार्थ
योगं युञ्जन्मदाश्रयः
योगं युञ्जन्मदाश्रयः
असंशयं समग्रं माम्
असंशयं समग्रं माम्
यथा ज्ञास्यसि तच्छृणु.
यथा ज्ञास्यसि तच्छृणु.
Again, translation, start. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Now hear, O son of Pritha, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt." So here Krishna is enunciating his beginning Bhakti Yoga. How does Bhakti Yoga begin? I don't know if that shloka is given here. Prahlad Maharaj gives us 9 processes of devotional service. It's not there in this Navadha Bhakti. It's the 9th canto where Krishna, he talks about 9 devotional processes of Bhakti Yoga. How does it begin? I'll write a shloka on the board. It's not there here. I'll just put tiny numbers. Shravanam is number 1, Kirtanam is 2, Smaranam is 3, Padasevanam is 4, Shanam is 5, 6, 7, 8. This is 1. 9. Please repeat. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. Smaranam Padasevanam. Archanam Vandanam Dasyam. Sakhyam Atmanivedanam. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. Smaranam Padasevanam. Archanam Vandanam Dasyam. Sakhyam Atmanivedanam. Remember who perfected by chanting? In this is Haridas?
What is one?
One who perfected, devotees who perfected their lives, taking any one of this, they actually took only one limb of this 9 process and they perfected their life. So hearing, Parikshit, Arjun's grandson. 7 days, 7 nights he only heard about the Lord. Chanting, na, I can't recollect. Right now I'm just writing Haridas Thakur. I told you last time he used to chant 192 rounds. Haridas Thakur. Remembering Gajendra. Actually, after the Lord came, he started praying. Being a servant is Hanuman. I can't remember all, whichever one I remember I've written down. Hearing is Parikshit, chanting is Haridas Thakur, remembering is Gajendra, serving lotus feet of the Lord I can't remember. Deity worship is Ambarish Maharaj, prayers again can't remember. Being a servant of the Lord is Hanuman, friendship is Arjun, complete surrender is Bali.
Friendship could also be Uddhav.
Yes, Uddhav was also in Sakhya Ras. Sakhya. You can start 7.1. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Bali Maharaj. Bali. He is the grandson of Prahlad. Remember Vaman Avatar, he became to such a size, he took 2 steps and he covered the entire creation. And the 3rd step, he was Bali Maharaj. That is Bali Maharaj. Parikshit Maharaj, I am sure everyone knows. He is the cause of Srimad Bhagavatam. 7 days and 7 nights, he simply heard. And that's how he perfected his life, was totally purified to go back to Godhead. Chanting was Haridas Thakur. We don't need to hear about him. Gives us a complex. 192 rounds every single day. Right? And then remembering is Gajendra. Gajendra is apparently an elephant. Yeah. In the Trikuta mountains, another planetary system. And what did he do when he was in trouble, when the crocodile caught him in the water? He immediately remembered the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. So this is perfection by remembering the Lord. Serving lotus feet, I can't remember. It's called Pada Sevanam. Deity worship Archanam, is Amrish Maharaj. We've done a verse by him in chapter 4. That every particular limb of his body, his eyes to look at this form of the Lord, his nose in smelling the flowers which are offered to the Lord, his tongue in speaking about the Lord and accepting the prasad which is offered to the deity. So practical deity worship is Amrish Maharaj. Prayers, Vandana Karna, prayers. Being a servant of the Lord, the best servant was Dasya, Hanuman. Actually menial service, ready to do anything for Lord Ram. Right? Friendship is Arjun. For him, Krishna was like a very dear friend. He would do anything for him. And complete surrender was Bali Maharaj, as I described earlier. He completely surrendered. This is like, the epitome. Right? Almost the last instruction of Krishna, even in the Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter, verse 66. Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam. Atma nivedanam sharanam is complete surrender. So what I wrote this verse, the whole thing, was that it begins with Shravanam. Without these two, escape, Shravanam and Kirtanam, to proceed further will be difficult. Shravanam is extremely important. When the child comes in the womb of the mother, the first organ to be activated is ears. It's the hearing process which is first activated. And the last to be deactivated is again the ears. Goes down. Last. Why? And that's why Krishna put lids for it also. That galti se to at least sun le, someone can hear something. It's a very important process. That's why Krishna uses this word, the last line of the shloka, tat jnasasi, yatha jnasasi tat shrinu. He says, just hear. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, I'm reading the translation, now hear. Hearing is the beginning of the Bhakti Yoga system. Now hear, O son of Pritha, how by practicing yoga and full consciousness of me. Only by hearing we get to know about the Lord. How great He is. By hearing we understand the importance of devotees. By hearing we understand what is deities, what is temple. Just by hearing, imagine someone who's deaf can't even speak. Why?
Because he can't hear.
Because he can't hear. Very knowledge system is shut down. Someone who cannot speak can at least do something. Someone who's deaf, life becomes very difficult for them. So here in the first paragraph, Prabhupada, what has he done? He's given a summary of the 7th chapter. Can I read that? In the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the nature of Krishna consciousness is fully described. So the first part of chapter 1 is nature of Bhakti Yoga or nature of Krishna consciousness. I'm writing KC. Second part of chapter 7 is Krishna is full in all opulences, and how he manifests such opulences is described. 2 parts in the second, Krishna's opulences and how those opulences are manifested. They means the opulences. Is that okay? The third point I am writing here. What's the third part? 4 kinds of fortunate people who become attached to Krishna, and 4 kinds of unfortunate people who never take to Krishna consciousness. 4 types of people: surrender and who do not surrender. Again, A and B. 4 types this side, 4 types that side. Is that okay? Next paragraph. In the first 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, the living entity has been described as a non-material spirit soul. What's non-material? That means earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, ego, something that I am not. This is not me. Who's me? Sat Chit Ananda, the spirit soul. Capable of elevating himself to self-realization by different types of yoga. I raised it, na? Karma yoga, Jnana yoga, Dhyan yoga. Is that okay? Next. At the end of 6th chapter, it has been clearly stated that the steady concentration of the mind upon Krishna, or in other words, Krishna consciousness, is the highest form of all yoga. That means not only meditation, it's also Shraddhavan Bhajate Yomam, the one who is serving me, not only meditating me, also serving me. How to serve? The practical application Prahlad Maharaj has given beautifully in this verse. And it begins with touch, renew. It begins with hearing. Right? So in the next page, I think it's the next page, there is a beautiful shloka. I think about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shlokas from the Srimad Bhagavatam have been given. That is benefits of hearing. I'll erase this part. Imagine if I tell children, knowledge begins with hearing. Listen to your parents, my God. But apparently Bhakti Yoga begins with hearing. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, this process of understanding Krishna, did you find that paragraph?
Yeah.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth, is described in 2nd chapter of the 1st canto as follows. Shrinivatam svakatha Krishna punya shravana kirtanaha hridyantasto yabhadrani vidhunoti suritsatam. Now just below the shlokas, the translation is given. I'm reading the first verse translation. To hear about Krishna, did you find it?
Yeah.
From Vedic literatures, or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita, is itself punya shravana, is itself a righteous activity. And for one who hears about Krishna, Lord Krishna, who is dwelling in everyone's heart, acts as a best wishing friend, Surat Satam, and purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him. Vidhunoti Surat Satam. What happens? Hridyanta, in the heart. Antaha, Krishna sitting inside in the core of our heart, he is sitting. And when he understands that this person, this Jivatma is hearing about me, what does he do? He immediately starts acting as a friend. Imagine, if Dipti and Monali and you all are talking about me, what happens? I just hear my name and I'm like, and then when I hear that you're hearing something good about me and you're discussing, what happens? I become even more, so even Krishna is a person. What happens to him? Oh, this person is hearing about me. He's getting back his lost memory, trying to revive the dormant consciousness of loving Krishna. So immediately he starts acting as a very sweet friend, well-wishing friend. Surat means a well-wishing friend. Then what happens? Now this is only the first thing of hearing. Krishna becomes a well-wishing friend. Imagine. What happens second, the next verse? Nashta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Then what happens? In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge. This is what I was talking about. How in Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga is a byproduct. Because Krishna has already become a friend. What happens? His dormant transcendental knowledge is awakened. As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam and from the devotees, he becomes Naishtiki. He becomes fixed in devotional service of the Lord. Is that okay? Bhakti bhavati, bhaktir bhavati, naishtaki. Is that done? And then then the next verse. Tadarajastamo bhava kamalobhadayaschaye chetayete rana vidham stitam satve prasidati. Then what happens? By development of devotional service, now he's already become firm, determined. And then by development of devotional service, one becomes freed from modes of passion and ignorance. Automatically the tamogun and rajogun, they leave this person. And thus material lusts and avarice are diminished. These are the root causes of our sinful behavior. These things stop, they just leave us. Imagine, instead of me becoming, we think that we have to leave these things. What happens? By Krishna entering our lives, these lower things immediately, they leave us. They go away. We don't have to make an endeavor to leave these things. We don't have to make an endeavor of leaving behind ignorance. These things just reject us. They leave us and they go away to catch someone else. Then, evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogatah bhagavad tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayate. Then, when these impurities are wiped away, that is tamogun, rajogun is wiped away, what happens? The candidate remains steady in his position of pure goodness and then becomes enlivened by devotional service and understands the science of God perfectly. Bhagavad Tattva Vijnanam, the Gyan, the actual knowledge about Bhagavad Tattva, about the truth of life, about the truth of Krishna consciousness. He immediately starts understanding this, because ignorance is gone. Then automatically we start understanding the deeper truths. That's why it's very difficult when people say that we cannot understand Bhagavad Gita. Even if the person of insomnia can go off to sleep with Bhagavad Gita. Why? So much ignorance and so much of lust. We don't understand these things. What happens if we hear from an authoritative source and keep hearing? This is what happens. We start getting some inclination to hear more, and automatically because this tamogun, rajogun have deserted us, we start understanding things more. We've automatically come to the platform of goodness. You remember there are three things: sattva, raja and tamogun. It's the mode of goodness, there's good mode of passion, mode of ignorance. This hearing process immediately pulls us to the mode of goodness. In fact, it is mentioned here that is pure goodness. The person becomes enlivened by devotional service. He understands the science of God perfectly. And the last is the best. Vidyate hridaya grantish छिद्यन्ते सर्व संशया क्षीयन्ते चास्य कर्माणि दृष्ट एवात्मनीश्वरे. Then, thus Bhakti Yoga severs the hard knot of material affection and enables one to come at once to the stage of asamshaya, samagram. That means samshaya is doubts. Asamshaya means without doubt, undoubtedly. Samagram is understanding. Without doubt, understanding everything. Understanding of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The absolute truth is what we understand. Here there is this word, Chidyante Sarva Samshaya Vidyate Hridaya Grantish. The knot is very tough. Jada, as they call it. That is a grantha. What is it called? Hridaya Grantha. It's a knot. When there's a very tight knot, it's very difficult to open it. You have to use your teeth sometimes. You have to really your nails are broken already. You're trying to open the knot because it's very tight. The material affection in our hearts is so tight. Affection to this body, affection to the paraphernalia of this body, affection to our homes, affection to our material things. Imagine when some material possession is lost. There's some legal implication. Sometimes you have bad karma and you have years and years of legal litigation. Then what happens? It's just so much of anxiety, the rounds of the lawyers, the rounds of the courts. So much of anxiety. That's just because of some material affection. It's so deep rooted. It's like a hard knot in our heart. As Bhagavatam says, this last verse, Vidyate Hritaya Grantish. What happens when the ignorance is gone? The tamogun and the rajogun has gone. We've come to pure goodness. Then what happens? Then this devotional service starts working on our material knots, these attachments. And it's directly what happens? It starts loosening. It starts cutting and it starts loosening. And then what happens? Shiyante chasya karmani drishta eva atmanishvare. And then we'll be coming to the full stage of pure devotional service. We'll completely understand who Krishna is, what my relationship with him is, and everything. And all this begins with Srinivatham Swakatha Krishna. By Krishna Katha, by hearing Krishna Katha. There's so many benefits. 5 verses of Srimad Bhagavatam only for Shravanam, only for hearing. So that's why it's such an important thing. It's such an important service that we can do. We can hear what Krishna is saying. Unless we hear, we cannot apply. Right? So here, I'll just stop. Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness, one can come to understand the science of Krishna. So we'll just read this text, 7.2. I'll just find out if anybody goes down. Jnanam teham savijnanam idam vakshami sheshatah yajñātvā neha bhuyo nyaj jñātavyam avishishyate. Translation.
I shall now make known unto you in full this knowledge, both known and reminiscence.
This being known, nothing further shall remain for you to know. So just the last thing, that apparently in every religion that we see, we've done this in Journey of Self-Discovery also, that we understand how this Bhagavad Dharma is complete knowledge. Krishna says here very clearly that after I give you this knowledge of Bhakti Yoga, which is the highest, you don't need to know anything more. Why? Because what happens is, even in Jesus Christ, when he was moving on the boat with his disciples, he said that, O men of less faith, there's so much I have to tell you, I can't. Because of the amount of faith is low. There's so many people who've read Bhagavad Gita and they don't understand that devotion to Krishna is the highest. Why is it difficult to understand that Bhakti Yoga is the highest yoga? They still practice Dhyan Yoga and other forms of Gyan Yoga. They get stuck up. Why? The faith is low and they've not been able to hear what actually Krishna is saying. When we read here, it is so clear. Yeah, in Bhagavad Gita overview, when we've gone through all these chapters, now we've come to the 7th chapter, it's so obvious that what does Krishna want us to do? He wants us to practice Bhakti Yoga. Did Mahatma Gandhi understand this? No. He went ahead for non-violence. And here apparently Krishna tells Arjun, get up and fight, get up and fight. It's like this so much opposite. Why can't people understand? Because here it's very difficult. Apparently it looks so difficult. If people they're the celebrities, they're such educated people, they find it difficult to understand because they don't have devotion. That faith is not there. Hearing from the right source has not been there. Hearing either from Krishna directly, because Arjun was very fortunate, or hearing from a devotee of Krishna is extremely important. Because he understands, that devotee will understand what is in Krishna's heart. That's what they will reveal. So we'll start from 7.2 onwards, next Tuesday, 11:15. And here I'll stop. You can go for darshan. Premnidhi Prabhu is coming in 1 minute.